Hi there everybody, hope you had a great weekend. Welcome back to the land of low friction. I am back earlier than normal as I'll be trying if I can to get a couple of videos a week out instead of just the one. Just to, number one, I need to catch up on a big backlog of detail reviews, so I'm going to try to get one a week of those done, and two, there's always a whole bunch of stuff happening, low friction updates. So in between the detail reviews, I'll be trying to pump out an update vid as well if I can. All right, here we go. Let's get into the first update, which is we've got some test data from Ceramic Speed Denmark Lab on the SRAM, their new T-type chains. So let's have a bit of a look at that. Okay, if you've been out of the loop a bit, you may not be aware that SRAM have a new transmission system, but they do. It's part of their rather brilliant master plan, as with the universal derailleur hanger that they got everybody into in the off-road world. So as part of the new transmission system, they have a new chain. I did a video covering the release of the new transmission system and some initial thoughts, and other channels have covered that really well. So check out those vids. So Escape Collective, Pete Talk, places like that. From our perspective in the land of friction, we kind of just want to know, how do the new chains perform? So SRAM typically have not made the fastest chains out there. Are things improving as we move into the new transmission system? There are three levels of chain at the moment within this system. There is the XXSL, which is their lightest and most expensive version. There is the XX, which is the same chain, it just doesn't have the little cutouts in the plates there. So it is a tiny bit lighter. And then there is the XO level, which is it does have a different surface finish, and it's also going to be a bit heavier with no cutouts, and this also has solid pins. How do they go in friction testing? Okay, I am proud to present to you an Excel graph. As you know, you all come to Zero Friction Cycling videos to look at Excel graphs. All right, and we got some, as I guess really is sort of special to SRAM, some interesting data points in that yet again in this new flat top system, the XO level chain, when it's been optimized and tested with a proven fast lubricant option, not allowed to name which one all the tests are on, but you may be able to guess, that the XO level is actually a little bit faster than the XX and XL level, and this is something that we've seen, really, it's only with SRAM that we've seen the same thing occur with their original flat top with the red and force level chains, and it's also seen with their SRAM Eagle XX and XO level chains, where the lower level has been, they've all been, I guess, a similar sort of gap, where there's a bit of a speed benefit in favor of the lower model over the higher end model. That is unusual. It's not been seen with any other brand. Also on point for SRAM is that the speed ratings with their factory grease, it's bad. So SRAM's factory grease does tend to be in general at the lower end of things, and with the new transmission chains, it's really, as I guess, the lowest rating that we can get it. These chains are going to be obviously used, I would imagine, pretty much exclusively off-road, being the transmission system that it is. So really, for number one, you need to get rid of the factory grease because it is very slow. Number two, you need to get rid of the factory grease because you're out in the world of dirt and dust, and dirt and dust is not going to make that factory grease faster. So if you're ever unsure as to whether or not you needed to remove the factory grease off your chain, I'm happy to always remind that yes, you do and you should, and it's just sort of doubly, triply slow in the case of SRAM. That's slow in my mind, which is a fairly sort of key word when it comes to SRAM and factory grease. All right, now just going to go into a little bit more depth, so if you give me a bit of extra length, but it's going to come up, so I may as well just address it while we're here. So just questions around compatibility for running a potentially faster chain. So this comes up a bit already with the SRAM flat top system for Red and Force and Rival, because those chains, whilst they're not terrible at all in terms of speed, they're just not super fast like the fastest known chains are. So there is a little bit of a marginal gain there by going to, say, a YBN, and people do. However, the zero friction Zyklon, my position on that has always been to recommend against, simply because the flat top chain, it is thinner internally and externally. To get the metal strength back for making such a thin chain, SRAM made the chain taller, so that there's sufficient basically metal across the link. By going to taller, they have had to make the rollers oversize. That means that the teeth on your cassette and on your chain rings, they are machined for that larger roller, and also for the internally thinner chain. To what we'll call a normal 12-speed chain, those parts are going to look quite worn. And we already know that when you put a new chain on worn drivetrain components, they can jump under load. That happens to people all the time. It's probably one of the biggest things that come up when people buy a new chain. They put it on their existing bits that they've taken their chain off, not noticed that their chain was worn well past the recommended wear mark, and the new chain jumps under load, either at the cassette or even worse, at the chainring. If it jumps at the cassette, it can be bad, especially if you're trying to ride in a race. It can snap your chain, you can snap teeth off the cassette. It's generally quite unsettling. If it jumps off the chain rings, especially under stand-up power, and obviously it's more likely to jump under high power than low power. People do have chains jump off chain rings under high power if they've put a new chain on worn bits, collapse onto the handlebars, and go over that for a hot date with the asphalt or the terrain. And that, as Lucia would say, is less than ideal. So, I've always recommended, just for, I guess, a risk-reward thing, that you should stay with the flat top chain if you're on the flat top system. A bit more comfortable with triathletes that tend to go for the faster chain, because they're doing pretty much steady state power in their bike leg, unless they're riding like super weird. That'd confuse their competitors all around them if they sort of rode it in on-offs for their 180k triathlon leg. That'd be a blast. But yeah, so in general, a bunch of cyclists around the world have written in over time saying what they've sort of been doing, putting a YBN or a KMC onto their flat top system, and how that's all been going. And in general, all the feedback, anecdotal, has been, all is fine. However, there's physically less metal there. There's no getting around that. There is notably physically less metal there, because that chain is notably thinner internally and for larger rollers. Perhaps the first chain is okay. Perhaps the first chain is okay up until a certain kilometer point in the future. At some point, at some earlier point than if you are running the correct chain, that chain is going to have a higher risk of jumping under load, and that risk is likely to just sort of continue to increase. So my official position has always been to recommend against going away from a flat top chain on your flat top system. SRAM are obviously pretty categorical with regards to you must run that chain. And so if you're going to step out to something quicker, then just be aware of that. Now, really all of that is going to apply to the new transmission that they've got with their new T-type chains. I don't yet have any further information as to why. So SRAM are claiming that this new flat top is not compatible to use with the old flat top, and vice versa, so that the new flat tops are not even compatible within amongst themselves. We don't have enough information as to why that may be the case. I imagine people are going to sort of possibly try to mix and match. However, there won't really be any advantage to doing that. So apart from cost, because the new T-types, they're not cheap. So there may be some that think, I'm going to run a Force chain on my new T-type transmission. So there may be that. But yeah, stay tuned. I do need to do a new 12-speed chain compatibility video, because we overall have more information now since I did the first one. And I will try to get more information for that video with regards to the new flat top and the old flat top, and why SRAM are claiming that they are not cross-compatible. So we still just don't really have the information as to why that is. All right, now I'm just going to also quickly cover Another issue that comes up as to why people choose to use a non-flat top chain, and that is noise. The SRAM flat top chain system, so the Axis Force, Red, Rival, so on, that's, really compared to, I would say, pretty much all other systems, and not to really sort of just hang crap on SRAM here, but it's a really noisy, rough system compared to pretty much everything else. And so, this has really come up a bit over the years where, we've had people who have been immersive waxing with M-Speed wax or hot melt for years. They've got a new bike, and this one has the Axis flat top system, and they're like, man, it is just not awesome in regards to noise and feel. And it's really a case of running a solid lubricant in something that is a little bit on the noisier rough side. A solid lubricant is not going to really help dampen that like some liquid lubricants do. And so it is just something that comes up. And thanks to David, who sent me this link, which was great. So one of the troubleshooting that SRAM recommend is to run a wet lube to help tame the noise. I've got to obviously disagree a lot with SRAM here, especially for systems that are going to be, running off-road. Aside from the data that is pretty exceptionally clear with regards to how wet lubricants go versus wax lubricants off-road, there's a reason why the vast majority of, new high-end lubricants coming out, the focus has all been on wax, be it immersive wax or wax base. Just as a matter of course, telling people to run wet lubes to help tame the noise, it's not amazing. So some people are choosing to use the non-standard chain to go to a smooth chain. So that is the other main reason. But just be aware of, I guess, my sort of official stance. However, if you're finding that it's driving you nuts, you can try. But just, I guess, try with care. The other issue that comes up when trying the non-standard chain is that, a YBN or a SRAM Eagle chain or a KMC, they're going to be wider because the flat top chains are very thin. There's very, very little gap at all between the side of the chain plates and the next cog. Your gear indexing needs to be exact for those chains to be okay and not have any sort of ticking or rubbing on the adjacent cog. And that if you have, aside from gear tune, if anything's a little bit out, such as your hanger alignment, then that's going to be an issue. So it does not take much these days for things to be knocked out. Hangers are notoriously sometimes not straight from the gun. They've either been possibly bent a tiny bit in transit, or the frame that they're mounted to has not been perfectly faced. So the hanger's sitting a tiny bit out of alignment, just being bolted onto the frame. All these little things, which were not really much of an issue when we had 8 and 9 speed bikes, are more of an issue as the number of cogs we're cramming in there gets more and more. And the tighter you pack them, then it's more likely to be an issue. So again, it doesn't often come up, but it comes up. So just be aware if you're doing that it may be an issue. Just with regards to gear tune, and if the hanger's out, you'll just never get that sorted until the hanger is straight. And not all bike stores even have hanger alignment tools that are sufficiently accurate for this new very thin 12-speed world. All right, so I summarize that in a way that doesn't sound like I'm really taking a big sort of dump on SRAM, because look, like all the top manufacturers, they do some things brilliantly. I think their new move with XXSL overall is something really exciting, and their master plan with the UDH has been, I think it's quite a master stroke by SRAM. Their chains durability for especially the high level chains is just outstanding with a hard chrome. Obviously in the Axis wireless system overall is magnificent. They do a lot of great stuff, and there are some validly good reasons for them going to a very thin but taller chain with oversized rollers as opposed to the standard. It's not just to, I guess, take an excuse to lock things up in a patent nightmare and lock you into that system, as opposed to obviously in 11 speed and 10 speed. You could mix and match pretty much whatever you wanted, chain and cassette and chainring wise. These systems are now really bringing you back to being sort of locked into their own systems. You know, it was, in my view, not really done just to do that. There are advantages to be able to make the chain thinner and therefore the cogs closer together. For a given, you know, I guess number of cogs, your 12-speed cogs for a flat top chain, they're going to be closer together, so the cassette is physically less wide than a cassette that is made for a wider chain. That means that your chain line angles when you're in the largest cog are going to be less bad, things like that. So, you know, they've got some great things and directions that they've taken and that they've made. It would just be, from the zero friction cycling perspective, amazing if they could make a fast or faster chain and one that was smoother. You know, in the flat top system, bring out a race or a TT version that is fast and smooth. That would be amazing, and it will save people trying chains that are outside the system on the system and the risks that that can come with. Okay, and yeah, apologies to SRAM. I got to wrap on just one other area of sort of, I guess I would like to say, focus improvement for them. Their factory grease. So yeah, it's given a rating of 1. Now I can't, as part of the agreement with Ceramic Speed, to be able to use the chain efficiency test data, I do need to just, I guess, use the scale. I can't give you the actual watts losses, so because they're not in the business of trying to, you know, annoy partners that they need to obtain chains from. So, you know, let's just say as an approximation that there's about a handful of watts between running with a factory grease as opposed to cleaning the factory grease off and running with a proven top fast option such as UFO wax, hot melt and M-Speed wax, products like that. You know, and that's a lot, and it's also SRAM factory grease is a pain in the butt to clean versus most other chain brands. So you'll notice a lot of the other manufacturers, their factory grease rating is typically, say, around about a 3 as opposed to a 1. Now 3's, you know, it's okay, it's passable. It's kind of what you'd expect from, say, a packing grease or factory grease. So, you know, and, you know, remember, this may shock you, I don't have global reach, just a strange, weird guy talking about chain lubricants. So it is certainly not going to be uncommon that people are going to buy a new you know, group set and run the chain as it is, brand new. There will be still a huge amount of cyclists out there that know nothing about what they should be doing with the factory grease and you know, faster lubricant options. And so, you know, and also similar with people who buy a replacement chain and take it out of the box and have it installed or install it and ride it with the factory grease. So just when it's like it's that big a difference between that and something fast, you know, that's just a really big difference, and it's a pain in the ass to clean, and it doesn't have to be that way. Have a look at what the other brands are doing, please, SRAM, and perhaps move to something that is not such a pain to clean and not so slow out of the box. And obviously, like, it is pretty tacky stuff. It really, dust and everything does really stick to it very, very readily. So, and as I mentioned earlier, abrasive dust just does not help make the factory grease faster. So when it starts really slow and you take it off road, it's a backward scale from there. So it's something that you know, for everyone who we don't reach with regards to prepping the chains with something great, for everyone that's out there running that factory grease, well, A, not fast, B, thank goodness those chains will have great durability because they're going to need it. So to hold up against yeah, what they'll be running with. So all right, I'll finish the little SRAM thing on that. Sorry, SRAM, I'll have to do a video one day on all the things I love about you. There's many things, but yeah, just in the world of low friction, a few points sort of keep coming up that I would love you to please improve in future. Alright, and where I remember on videos, I'm going to summarize with the top takeaways from the vid. So for today's top takeaways, they are the new T-Type with fast lubricant. They are not super fast, but they are not super slow either. They are really, I guess, competitive with the Shimano 12-speed, which turned out to be not as quick as I expected when I made the first 12-speed compatibility video. So they're a bit behind your really fast 12-speed chains like the YBNs and the KMCs, and the Campies, but they're not, you know, super slow either. So they're faster than the Eagles and so on. With factory grease, they are as slow as can be. Don't run them with factory grease if you want to go faster. They still retain the odd thing that only SRAM have, where the lower model is about 1/2 a watt faster than the higher level models. Whilst not tested, they are extremely likely to be very wear durable. The system is officially not compatible to run with other 12-speed chains, including even their other flat-top chains. They are really expensive, so aside from speed, there are a lot of reasons to run a proven top lubricant that will minimize the wear by a lot over wet lubricants, especially off-road, and or factory grease plus wet lubricant. They may still have the noise sort of smoothness issues, which comes up a bit with the existing flat top, as opposed to the lovely smooth silky running that we get with the immersive waxes and wax lubes on pretty much all other systems, including SRAM Eagle. SRAM Eagle chains tend to get along beautifully with wax and run beautifully smooth. Don't fall for the advice of SRAM to run a wet lube, especially if you're riding off-road. So just please don't do that. Oh, lucky last, sorry. When will I be getting them? That's been coming through more and more frequently. I don't know. I haven't been in a rush to try to source them outside of the normal importer, just because I figured that most people who buy the new SRAM transmission, they'll have a chain, and that chain's going to last a good bit. So buying just the chains themselves in any sort of volume, I don't think is going to be sort of on the cards for a little bit just yet. However, I can't get them anyway at the moment, and I don't have an ETA from the importer for SRAM. Basically, as soon as the importer has some, I should be notified, and I will start stocking some so that you're able to just get them professionally pre-prepped and not have to worry about that factory grease situation. So, but don't have an ETA, sorry. It'll be when I can get them. And yeah, stay tuned. I will try to remember to update should I actually get them. Thanks for watching, everyone. I hope you found the little update on the T-type chain efficiency interesting, and thank you for giving me, as always, the excuse and liberty to just discuss more broadly around a bunch of stuff with that update. As you know, I like to do. I'm not much of a wham bam to the point. I do like to just have a chat with you about all the relevant parts surrounding the main update. So thank you if you've watched and given me that liberty there. And if you are enjoying the ZFC content, I meant to remind this in all the vids as well. Please, like, subscribe, share with your friends, all that stuff. I am terrible at anything social media, including this. So thank you for doing that if you do. And thank you for your support. And I will be back with the next low friction update when I can. And yeah, if not though, I will be trying to get to another detail review this Friday at the latest, and we'll see if we can get that one out. All right, thanks everyone. Stay low friction this week.